And we are back. Dr. Hiroshi gave us a glimpse of a connected and digital future, which looked very exciting. Now we have Rob Van Kranenburg, who will present to us what I call the other side of the coin. How can freedom of speech, privacy, etc., be protected online, and what are our digital human rights? Mr. Rob Van Kranenburg currently works in the NGI Forward Strategy team. He founded the IoT Council in 2009 and the IoT Day in 2010. He's among the 15 global influencers in IoT to follow in 2021. A bit about Rob. He was the coordinator for IERC AC8 Societal Impact and Responsibility in the context of IoT applications and ecosystem manager of Horizon 2020 project, tagged Smart till 2019. As ecosystem manager, he organizes on topic salons and co-creation workshops. He was co-editor of Enabling Things to Talk, designing IoT solutions with IoT architectural reference model called ARM. It is clear that we can no longer isolate the notion of security as in securing devices or securing infrastructure. I now invite Rob to deliver his talk on a very fascinating topic, urban cold spots and disposable identities. Take it away, Rob. The screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Anita. I will share the screen and I will try to find the presentation right now. I think it will work. Hope it works. Yes. Sort of. So.
You can just share your screen, Rob, and then put the presentation on slideshow mode.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that, but
you can minimize this window and just bring forward your presentation. Yeah, press there. Yeah, now just press on the PowerPoint icon there at the bottom of your. That's it. Put it on slideshow and we are good to go.
So great. Yeah. So do you see it?
Yes, we can all see it. You can put it on the slideshow mode, Rob, and yeah, perfect.
Perfect. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, thank you very much. So sorry about that because we did a great rehearsal and everything worked fine, but now I'm in a different location. But basically, first of all, of course, thank you very much for having me. I'm really honored and humbled, especially after seeing the video. I mean, it's just incredible what's going on. And of course, I mean, I haven't been thinking about this for 150 years, but which would be a bit impossible, but for quite some time. And I think from the 80s to 2008, I was writing a text that's for about 20 years that came out in 2007 about the Internet of Things and RFID, which was then the focus on radio frequency identification. And I was very positive. I was thinking, I mean, there's a lot of trajectories here, and there's a lot of control trajectories, but there's also a lot of trajectories that we can focus on building trust and building trust locally. And I think that's also something that came out into the video. So first, congratulations. And of course, we cannot be naive. So there have been technical trajectories that are undesirable and not well thought through, and we must do better. But we must also applaud what has been done up until now. And I think now it's time for new teams. So we've seen teams of engineers teaming up with lots of intelligences, and I think we all need to team up with artists, psychiatrists, because there's a lot of mental thinking and anguish and mental issues going on, especially if we look at the presentation that was here before, which was about the question of the essence of human presence, basically. And these are questions that we need to address with a lot of people. We need the activists because they ask the critical questions. We need the Luddites even because they are against what a lot of people are doing. And of course, we need the investors, the fintech, the coders, the politician. And hopefully we can work as some kind of a networked collective. Basically, I've got 3 short focus presentations. And the first is on this notion of the smart city that was quite necessary at some point, but that also has led us to believe that we can actually build smart cities, and then we have this notion of let's build a lot and things like that. And I think we should leave that a little bit behind. And so what we've done is we wrote again with a collective on basically zones of connectivity, where we talk about hotspots and cold zones. And so we basically want to leave behind this notion of the smart city and talk about these hotspots and cold spots. And it's important also to start questioning the language, because the language of technology up until now, and I think the engineers, we know, though I'm not an engineer, but I would say the engineers know there's a lot of hype and marketing going on. And kind of this logical idea of going from 3G to 4G to 5G to 6G, as if they are related, basically, I think we need to question that. And what we need to start from now is to start from what are the needs, and how should we address these needs? And of course, also in the video, it showed that COVID has really unearthed a lot of needs that we need to address. So basically, we can say we just need good sewage systems everywhere, because also, especially in Holland and Netherlands and Belgium and France, with the latest floodings, maybe that you heard something about it. This was quite serious. It basically was the immensely bad state of sewage systems in Europe that has caused all these issues. We need good food, good healthcare, schools. Very simple things. How simple can it be? So why are we not having it? So why is this not happening? Politically, we are in a moment in time that's quite vital, because all systems are basically going to look like each other pretty soon, and are going to be quite centralized. I mean, there's a kind of centralizing notion that seems to be around. The next term that we know is cyber-physical systems. And we can also say that cyber-physical systems sort of equals sort of 6G. And if we do that, then we need to say cyber-physical systems equals a coordinated effort on where 5G is necessary. So should 5G be everywhere in India, on every inch and every centimeter? I don't think so. Why? There's no need for that. Why should we invest in Europe? This would mean for all urban zones, 500 billion euros, which is like 2/4 of the whole package of the COVID deal. So it makes no sense. 5G should be in specific places, in hotspots, in corridors where we should have our autonomous vehicles, in operating theaters, smart manufacturing. But should it be spread like wildfire all around? No, I don't think so. So hotspots should burn with connectivity, but cold spots should be like yoga, of course, we're in India, yoga for body and mind, and enhance our intrinsic skills and serendipity, capacity for love and friendship. Nothing should be lukewarm here. So in terms of hotspots, also in the video, we heard about running AI on the edge in real time. These are great things for the hotspots, where you have long-range digital value change, opacity of local system purpose, traceable presence, quantifiable efficiency, density of sensorial cognitive inputs, top-down trust space. You can have that. That's where you run your AI locally in real time. And then you have your cold spots, where you have localized digital value change. And I think a lot of the things that we heard very briefly about on farming in India in the video could be a great combination between these hotspots and these cold spots. But in these cold spots, we also need to focus on transparency of local systems, anonymous presence, individual self-determination, well-being, open-ended use of space, and no data collected. So these are kind of the things that I think at this moment in time are vital that we work with and play with. So So the second thing I want to focus on is disposable identities, which is kind of a strange term, is a very recent term. There's also a term called ephemeral identities, tiny identities, but these are terms that are coming up at this moment in digital identity management, in which we feel that things are becoming so traceable and things are becoming so proactive that we as simple citizens, we face a kind of situation in which we maybe no longer are fully able to trust either government or industry actors with all that data, not because they're inherently bad, or not because they're inherently evil, or not because they are unable to sort of think, but basically because no one on the planet ever has been able to deal with this amount of data, with this amount of proactive capabilities. None of us are educated in doing that. So we need a timeout. We need a timeout. And we think that this disposable identities idea is kind of a timeout. So there's a request for information out from the Industrial IoT Consortium. Would be great if people could have a look at it. We did a short article about it in the International Journal of Cyber Forensics and Advanced Threat Investigations. And we were thrilled. I was really, really very happy to be asked as a non-technical person to write in this very, very coding-heavy magazine. And the magazine itself begins to understand that if we keep looking at cybersecurity in isolation in terms of devices, infrastructure, templates, we may run sort of the risk of not acknowledging that it's society itself which is at risk. And so we need a holistic view. We need a more social view also, because there's simply no way that humans can live in full light. There's also a Japanese saying that fish cannot live in clean water. They cannot swim in clean water. And this is very true. Humans, we cannot live in the full light plugged only into the databases of a few actors. So the killer app of digital identity management is dynamic pricing. And dynamic pricing is going on at this moment in time everywhere. Of course, if you buy something online, the price fluctuates in real time based on the fact of you might change a location. You may go to a more highbrow location. You can use a cheaper or a more expensive device. You can add a particular item, and that item also then raises the cost of other items. All of this is happening in real time. And the moment that this digital identity management is fully functioning, this will mean no more fixed pricing anywhere. There's going to be no more fixed pricing in a supermarket. There's no more need for a supermarket at all to exist and have some goods there, because you will simply scan any item and you will get your price, and the person behind you or next to you will get another price. This is the killer app of all of this. This is also the end of our social economic model. Sort of, it's something that needs to be in public hands. Sort of at this moment in time, helping to build these capabilities for just a few private actors. And let's be honest, the three biggest, sort of richest people in the world are now competing on sort of going into space instead of focusing on building sort of good sewage systems for people on the planet. I mean, what's the point of all of this? There's nothing honorable in building these for a few rich people. But I mean, that's really, I think, what's really important. That's also coming out of what I heard from the social responsibility and accountability of how the Indian engineers see their work. So very briefly, there's work on disposable identities. There's a text out. If you just Google disposable identities, you'll find a site, disposableidentities.eu, that I've put up. There's work by Dynog on zero-knowledge multi-party signatures. There's a toolkit coming up by the Twins Foundation, which is the Disposable Identity Privacy Toolkit, Enable Trust by Design by Building Sustainable Data-Driven Value. which is a great combination of people that are now building a mobile SDK that you could use to build apps on that run disposable identities. The request for information from the industrial IoT group is run by Mike Bennett, who is going to write a response for IOTA, for the IOTA Tangle group. So all of this is happening. And then there's the work of Petros Cavazales, who recently worked with Siemens on a very important social project, basically on people receiving food stamps and people receiving food based on the fact that they don't have enough income to buy food at particular moments in time. And it's very important that in terms of social stigmatization, that these disposable identities are being used to make sure that correlations cannot be easily made that would actually lead in the longer run to harming these people's capabilities of finding work or any other issues. The good thing about this project also is that it shows that there's an important business value in these disposable identities, and that's basically that you take away the GDPR compliance risk. A lot of people and a lot of businesses, a lot of small businesses and big businesses are now harvesting and hosting data that they don't really want to have and they don't really need to have. Actually, it's a huge liability that they could actually be fined for. So if these identities, if all this data is not there, that means that you actually don't have the GDPR liability, which is a huge business opportunity. And a third point I would like to touch in terms of sort of having this kind of timeout thinking in which we have this, we start thinking in terms of zones of connectivity. Where do we really need this connectivity? And then also start to thinking in building temporary shelter for us as people, as humans, that simply are now sort of moved into these systems in which the proactive capabilities of having insight into our lives is so enormous that it's just a kind of responsibility that no one has been educated into so far, that we need to educate ourselves into. We of course come to the third moment, which was the fantastic discussion that we saw in the brilliant presentation that we had on the notion of presence this morning by Professor Isakiru, is that as humans blush and love and feel shame and get depressed and burn out, is what we do, can we not focus on healing the humans and providing energy for the robots to gather resources that are new to us? So together with Lara Srivastava from Rethink the Net, and she's also a visiting fellow at LSE, we work on human-machine complementarity. And Rethink the Net says, in today's fast-paced environment, in which unpredictability is the norm and technology mediates every aspect of daily life, build it and let's see what happens is basically no longer an issue. We also saw this in the video in which the engineers are very, very honest about the fact that things are integrated and things need to have an integration. So technology for technology's sake is no longer solving our issues, it's actually raising more issues. So what we need now is a lateral approach, a multi-disciplinary approach, building a citizen-first digital ecosystem. And it's not just nice to have, it's a business imperative. It's something that's a win-win-win. And AI, algorithms and machines, of course they're here to stay. And designing them, we should try to find this notion of complementarity. And this notion of complementarity is a process. It's not something that we will find immediately, but we may have some ideas about it. And these are the ideas that are coming out of the thinking of the group of Rethink the Net. Things like, we're beneficent. So we are kind to others, we contribute, we help. We have beneficence as kind of a concept that we need in this human-machine complementarity. In India, of course, it's obvious. Non-violence. I mean, this is where the most serious and the most important political statement ever of that kind was made. non-violence. Our designs are non-violent. In bringing about political and social change, we use peaceful means rather than force. Accountability. We're accountable for our actions and our behavior. We take responsibility for our decisions, and we create with positive purpose. And the images all made by Tanya Grace Nucky Jr. for Rethink the Net. So with this, I just want to wish you another, of course, 150 years of great work. And thank you for having me. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rob, for that very, very insightful presentation. Like I said at the beginning, yours was actually, bringing out another angle to what Professor Ishiguro started with. We have one question. We have a couple of questions, in fact. I'll start with the first one. The first question is around the urban-rural divide. As you might know, in regions like India, 70% of our population lives in rural. So the first question we have is, do you think this urban cold spots or hotspots like this, will it artificially exacerbate the differences, for example, in education and access to information between those living in urban and rural areas?
I think this is possible. It's a very good question. But I think what we're trying to achieve with this notion of these zones of connectivity is to go beyond the notion of the city and the village, because actually I would say most people at this moment in time, but like if you have a smartphone or if you have some services on a particular level, a lot of the younger people are already in kind of a different world. Of course, it matters if they're in a city or in a village, but on the app layer, they're basically already living in some kind of a new hybrid kind of reality. And I think it's from that reality that we need to start rethinking the very notion of urban and rural, and because if we keep on thinking that this urban density needs sort of more connectivity, and that we need to have the same connectivity sort of expanded into the rural or sort of areas, I think this is not acknowledging the fact that on this layer of on this virtual layer of all these apps, the millennials, Generation Z, and the 15-year-olds are living in a different reality already, and we should try to work with their reality and then create a new meta reality from that. And that meta reality, I would say, is not that difficult to grasp. We're simple creatures, basically. We need good sewage systems. We need good hygienic environments. We need clean and healthy food. We need sort of education. We need to bring down the level of differences. At this moment in time, the fastest form of building on the planet, also in India, is gated communities, because we all know that. I mean, there's tremendous opportunity and tremendous capabilities from the My Gated app, and that's brilliant. But the My Gated app, ideally, should not just be for the people in the gated communities. It should be for the entire of India, of course. I mean, it should be a My Gated app for 1 billion people. So and this may be easy to say, and it is easy to say, but if we try to focus to tone down on the tremendous inequalities that are now happening, I think we could build this materiality much in a much more modular and quick way.
Thanks, Rob. That question was by Oana Lazar, and I'm hoping that it has been answered well. The next question is coming from Mr. VSR, and this is about what are the initiatives that you're working on building human machinery complementarity skills in the education system. So this is from a skills standpoint.
This is a great question, and at the moment we are just starting. So this is, I would say, the work that I've shown on with Lara Srivastava on Rethink the Net. We just started that, and we just started to build to make also these images with Tanya Grace Nucky, because I think the beauty of this morning was that we have these two sides of the coin. We have the professor who is trying to answer the questions by creating this kind of, and Freud wrote about it in the uncanny and Ophelia and the doppelganger. So it's creating this kind of uncanny moment of when you see the doppelganger, you're not really sure which one is real, and so this is a very important question, and this was brilliantly addressed by the professor. But we're taking the other approach. We think that robots, there's no need for the robot to look like a human at all. The robots should basically sort of be part of a process, and then develop intrinsic capabilities and skills in being part of that process. And the images that we then build is like we try to create this kind of I mean, I would really love if someone would actually build one of the robots that we just shown in the images, because then I think we see that we can address these issues of human presence, both from the fact of likeness, which was like the professor was doing, and difference. And I think that's the we can do both. So if there's no need to do one of the other, we have to do both, but we need to do both. I think, and so the question I cannot answer at this moment, but I would love to work with the presenter of the question to try to work on education of this complementarity.
Thanks a lot, Rob. I will certainly work on connecting you with VSR to see how this will go ahead. We have another question, and this one is from, just a moment, let me pull it up. This one is from Mark Farugia. So while he agrees with you on the notion of taking care of basic human needs for everyone, how do you think the top segment of the society might really care about these issues, and what's really in it for them? So this is about income inequality and how any of this matters to someone who's at the top of the society.
Yeah, I think there's two answers. The first answer is there is a Wired article written by someone that I forgot his name, but his first name was Mark, and he says the quote of the article is, "The pitchforks are coming for us." And this is a very simple argument that says, if inequality becomes strong enough and high enough, we all know this from the Middle Ages, if the king in the castle starts ignoring the people around it for too long, at some point the people will take the castle, sort of. So it simply is, it's in everyone's self-interest to create a kind of environment in which everybody feels valued, and at some point, or at least has some potential to educate him or herself and to develop their talents. So this is one argument, and this is a serious argument. So this argument was made by a billionaire himself in Silicon Valley. A lot of these billionaires have since moved to New Zealand. They're moving to lots of places. So we know that a lot of rich people are moving to particular places on the planet, thinking that at some point they will be kind of safe there with all their kind of value. What kind of a life is that? If you sort of, then the other argument is they're starting to build these gated communities. So what happens to your children if they grow up in a gated community? What's the resilience factor of all these people growing up in a gated community if they can no longer go outside, facing the people that they've never seen and that they think are not kind of human, or that they're not really sort of, they're quite different. So I've never understood this idea that the very idea that you could sit in a house with this big car, and there's people at the other side of the street who have nothing, and you don't care about that. I've never understood that. I don't understand it. I think we've been really focusing on the wrong criteria of success. These people are not successful. I mean, these people are sad, and these people are also sick. It's a very sick attitude that you would want to have so much more, and that you think that you deserve so much more. That's actually, I would say, clinically sick. But the thing that happened sort of from the 80s onwards throughout the entire planet, this entrepreneurial government model that we saw happening, it was also pushed very much by the OECD, that started by privatizing all capabilities of government. It basically had three mantras from the 80s. If you want to look for it, just look for new public governance, entrepreneurial governance. And it basically said, okay, we're going to focus on outcomes. Citizens are no longer citizens, but they're customers. Companies no longer they have missions. We don't care really much about rules. No, we just sort of care about these business results and all that. So what happened is, from the 80s, this kind of neoliberal perspective with people just focusing on greed and money, they took over the state, and they are now basically, they are still in the state basically, and started to eat out all these public capabilities. So basically saying, government is bad, corporations are good. Procedures over dialogue. We're not going to have a conversation with you. This is the procedure. Distrust is the default. Now, if distrust is the default, then you will only be proven right. You can only be proven right, and so these three mottos, they started to work basically all across the planet. And of course, then sort of you need a mental model to sort of sell to citizens that it's actually that you're a success if you have a Ferrari or something. But actually, it's just quite sad if you think that you because most people can't even get in or out of Ferrari. And this has to change. And I think, and with this, I'm really happy to see the videos, and I think engineers have a tremendous role to play here, because engineers need to be much more political and need to develop a much more sense of political sensibility. So I'm not going to say only look at what happened in China, but what happened in China was that the last Chinese government had 11 scientists out of 13 top politicians. When Jabo sort of basically talked about wisdom of the planet, and he understood Internet of Things in early 2000, and he designated cities like Wuxi, in which I was for quite some time, and also working with people in Wuxi from 2009. And of course, there's a lot of things that we can question and have to question, and we cannot be. But what we must acknowledge is that the engineers, they took their political responsibility to understand what they were building for a public capability. And this we totally missed in Europe, because our politicians are still lawyers and economists, and sort of it's horrible. I mean, in Europe we basically lost everything. We have no data, we have no platforms. We run the risk of losing AI. We run the risk of running AI locally on the edge, because we have no hardware. I mean, we do the chips, but they're all in other places. So, I mean, all of these things they need to be addressed at a high political level. So, of course, the engineers and the people of the institution, they should not just be advisor, I would say, to the president, but they should come with a very good, much tighter plans, and they should be much more, and not in the party sense political, but take much more responsibility for what is being built.
Thanks, Rob. I think you touched upon very important points around, building proof to the table, digital equity, and of course participation. There's no point living in walled gardens, like you aptly said. At the IET, our volunteers are working on multiple proof of concept, building, proof of the pudding for the government to take cognizance of what they're doing. So all of this is great inputs for them to, continue their efforts. We have time for one last question. Let me just pull that up. Mr. Choklingam is asking us about, just let me, yeah. What are the opportunities and problems caused by increased urbanization in developing countries? So this is by Mr. Choklingam Pillai.
Yeah, I would, I would say sort of I think it's the lack of legacy, of the lack of legacy in understanding what happens. What we see now happening in these urban zones, what's happened from, let's say, since the 70s, is that the latest systems were brought in from the outside. They were not co-created with local SMEs. They were not co-created with local companies. This sort of, we see sort of the entire, let's say, the smart camera, the smart sort of this entire 4G, 5G infrastructure is sort of dropped from the outside above into a total lack of legacy. There's also no co-creation. It means also that the data are going outside. And again, this was the defining moment that the Chinese engineers realized early with the internet. And of course they had to do it in a negative way first by closing down their with deep packet inspection, their bubble. They are now trying to do it in a positive way by creating their own fintech, by creating their own currency, by creating their own blockchains. So they're now, what they first did in a negative way, negative in the sense of blocking, they're now doing in a positive way, which is exactly the moment that India can learn from. This, I would say, and also Europe, especially Europe. But so a lot of this technology was brought in from the outside without any kind of local agency. And all the data just were just moved outside. The analytics is not run on the edge. The analytics is run in the cloud. Who's running it? Well, probably Microsoft is running it. It's running it either in Azure or in Alipay or in Amazon. So what do you get back? You get back the preferred scenarios from Amazon, Alipay, and Microsoft. Same is that we have with us in Europe. I mean, even the Siemens cloud. There is no Siemens cloud. It's just Alipay, Amazon, and Azure. Again, none of this is problematic in itself. I've got nothing against these platforms. These are brilliant platforms, extremely agile, fast, and you would love to use them and use them. But in the end, you use and lose local agency over your own services and your own applications and even your own infrastructure. This, I would say, runs very much counter to the fact that we as citizens are still paying taxes to our governments in order to get these services. And if we're no longer getting these services, if they're being played back to us by commercial actors, then how can we still claim that there is a society that we need to gather? So I think India should focus on Indian sovereignty, on data, Indian sovereignty on identity, Indian sovereignty on architecture. And this does not mean that it should not be interoperable. It should not mean that you should isolate yourself. But it should mean that you should build the value and keep the value inside for your own people that are paying for the services and paying for all the infrastructure in the government. And the same, of course, should happen, or would hope would happen in Europe. And these are not. This is not an isolating gesture. This is a gesture of survival. It's a moment you need that. So.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rob. And I hope all the questions have been answered. You've been very patient with all the questions. So thank you very much for being so detailed.
Thank you for having me. I mean, I'm honored. It's great to have all these questions. Yeah. Yeah.
Suman, we are not able to hear you.
I think you're muted.
Yeah, we are not able to hear you, Suman. Do you want to try again? No, we can't hear you. So till Suman sort of figures it out, can't hear you, Suman. I think you'll have to relog in. Thank you so much, Rob.
Thank you very much.
Right from the cold sports to explaining the entire concepts, being yoga for the body, for mind, for enhancing our skills. I'm sure everyone could relate to the digital identity management that you actually walked us through. And finally, how humans could be healed by robots while we provide energy for them. And new resources that are required to make all of this come full circle. Suman, are you back?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Perfect. I think you covered that well, Anita, what I missed out on, and couldn't thank Rob much. We shall request Shekhar to come to the screen now and summarize what has been a very eventful day. And more than that, I feel it's also a chance to talk to everyone about what's in store when we talk about the IT and what comes next.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Suman. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Anita. It has been such an eventful afternoon, evening, morning, depending on where are you, in which part of the world. It's been amazing. My mind is blown. I've heard Professor Ishiguro on one side. On the other side, I've heard Rob. And I have got a lot of thoughts in my mind as to how this is going to go forward, what the future holds, how are things going to change, how engineers and technologists will play such a massive role in what the future will be. And it brings home to me the mission of the IET, which is working to engineer a better world. And all this is part of that conversation. It was a wonderful afternoon. I'm sure all of you who were part of this enjoyed it as much as I did. Just to let you know, we had people watching this from 25 countries around the world. That's the power of digital technology. 25 countries, people have logged in from 25 countries, and they were part of this whole conversation that we had. But this is just the beginning. This EngTalk is the start of a series of global EngTalks that the IET will host over the next few months. Keep an eye open for the dates of the next EngTalks. They will be scattered around various parts of the world, in Asia, in Oceania, in the US, in the UK, so all over the world. Keep an eye open and you will see many more such interesting conversations happening. From an India standpoint, I've already spoken about our scholarship awards, which are open for Indian undergraduate engineering students. And the combined prize money is INR 5 lakh rupees. Over 7,300 students have already applied, and applications are closing on August 15th. In the comments, we have seen in the alerts, you can see the link where you can go to apply for the scholarship awards. Please, all of you who want to actually go and apply, we still have the applications open. Also, the first edition of the IET India Awards will open for entries on Monday. That's 2 days from now. A host of categories are available for people to apply across career stages. Please visit india.theiet.org. Our 150 years also includes difference makers. Again, I spoke about it right at the beginning. For some of you who might have joined late, we are going to showcase difference makers from this region, people who are using engineering and technology to create a difference on the ground. And we are focused on finding engineering in unexpected places. We will be recognizing a number of such difference makers between October 2021 and May 2022. Again, watch our website and social media handles for nominating and applying for this difference maker and watching these difference makers as we bring them to you. Our local networks across South Asia, 9 of them across India and Sri Lanka, will be organizing special events as part of the 150 years and celebrations, and details could be found on our website. So it's, as I said, it's just the beginning. A whole host of activities and celebrations are about to happen right through the year. And this is just what I talked about in this region. Globally, there are many more things which are happening. There's a difference maker campaign which is happening globally. There are awards which are happening globally. There are a lot of conversations with unexpected areas where engineering impacts, like fashion, like music. And please look out, go onto our global website and see what's happening there and be part of it. It is amazing times and it is difficult times. But if you look at what technology is able to do in these difficult times, it is amazing how it is making our life better, simpler than ever before. And as engineers and as technologists, it is our role to play, to make this thing make these problems go away, solve, and make the world a better place to live in. With that, I would like to thank all of you and thank all the organizers, the team which has worked tirelessly behind it across geographies, both in India as well as in the UK. A large team has worked together to bring it all together. Thank you all, one and all. It was a wonderful experience. I really enjoyed it. I hope all of you did too. Thank you, and stay safe and stay well.